Hey there, this is Robert Budd, and you are listening to The Robert Budd Show. And if this is your first time, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're a return listener, thank you so much for coming back. On these shows, I seek out those who are a contribution to their community, and I just dig in to see, how they became who they are, like who are their mentors, what books they read, just kind of dig into their background, and find out their why. Why do they contribute? They obviously contribute to the people that are around them, and why do it? We all have our whys, and I'm just really curious about what has people tick. On today's show, we have Taryn Mast, and you can find Taryn on all the socials at Taryn Alisha, and it's TarynAlisha. Taryn Alisha. And Taryn and I get into a little bit of her past, her spirituality and her religion, and what's her driving force. And she's a real contribution to, I can see she's a coach at the gym that we work out of, and I can really just see how she connects with people, and it just interests me. So I wanted to find out what makes her tick. And I learned stuff in this episode. One thing that I'm so proud of is figured out that you put pepper with turmeric and it activates the turmeric. Didn't know that. Anyways, that's one of many things that we get into. If you like the show or love the show, I'd really appreciate it if you share with your friends. That'd be really cool. And that's the highest form of compliment that we can get. And it just keeps the show going. All right, so without further ado, here is Taryn. All right. I always start that. I don't know why I always do that. I always go, all right. And I always cut it out. I always edit that part out. So the first thing I always ask people for a sound check is, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
This morning I had some oatmeal. Very simple.
Nothing in it, just oatmeal? No
cinnamon.
No sugar, no raisins, nothing like that?
Nope. Trying to not have any sugar right now while I'm letting my body heal a little bit.
Yeah, a little under the weather, so no sugar. Yeah. Is that typical? Oatmeal?
Typically I'll have coffee and I'll make like a golden milk. Are you familiar with that?
Not sure.
It's, so I guess like the traditional golden milk is a milk with turmeric. It's like a turmeric mix. But I'll make my coffee and then I'll put turmeric in it, a little bit of like almond milk, and then some black pepper to like activate the turmeric. And then I'll put some cinnamon, or I have like a pumpkin spice mix that I'll put in sometimes. And then I'll have that. So that's what I have usually every morning.
No sweetener?
And then every once in a while I'll put a little stevia in. I try not to, but yeah. And then I'll kind of go back and forth. I'll have oatmeal. Sometimes if I'm in a rush, I'll have go macro bar at work if I'm or some eggs. Some eggs and spinach or something like that.
What's his name? This golden milk. I just spaced his name. He's a big waves. Laird Hamilton. Yeah, Laird. So he's got a product called. It's a creamer and it's turmeric creamer. So it's got the same thing. It's got coconut. I think it's got coconut oil, coconut milk, turmeric, and some other stuff and it's just a powder you just put in. It doesn't have any sweetener in it.
I've seen that. I need to get that.
Yeah. I can't remember what he calls it. It's just, I think it's Laird's.
Come in a plastic bag?
Yeah. It's like Laird's creamer, something like that. Yeah. And he's got some that's a little more bulletproofy. I think it's got more fats in it. Maybe it might have some but it's all dried, so I don't think he does the actual bulletproof with the butter and stuff like that. But the turmeric he does. I like it, and I do also with the turmeric. Do you call it turmeric or turmeric?
I call it turmeric.
Yeah, that's probably the right way to say it. I say it the white guy way. Turmeric. It's like Buenos Dias. Cool. I'm a big sweetener fan, so I would sweeten the hell out of all that stuff. I love sugar. I've been doing a detox. I've been trying to, not do any sweetener, so I commend you with no sweetener. I don't like coffee, the taste of it that much, not to sweeten it up. So good on you.
Sweetener's good. I do have a sweet tooth, but I try and keep it out as much as I can.
Yeah, I totally.
But you put a chocolate chip cookie in front of my face, and that's a different story.
Oh, I won't do chocolate chip. No? I'm just kidding. Heck, are you kidding me? This kid loves cookies. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Cool. So on the same line of your coaching business, what do you call it? The mindset coaching? Say it?
Mindset and clarity coaching.
Mindset and clarity coaching. I always like to ask people why, and not just because so I have to disclaimer this, like, who gives a shit, like, why, and I always say, don't take me like I'm a jerk kind of who gives a shit, but like we're busy, we got a lot of stuff going on. Why contribute, or why have somebody get coached and be unstuck? There's a million different things that we could be doing. Why do you do it?
So I think it all comes from having mentors in my life. There was definitely a period of time that I didn't have mentors in my life, and then there was a period of time where I did and still do. But I think I once saw the benefit of having outside influence, having someone else's eyes kind of in my life, being able to kind of zoom out. And I've just seen how much greatness, abundance, healing has come from relationships like that. And so really my why behind it is be able to serve that to other people. So I know, there's a million coaches out there. There's a million new, we're in the fitness industry. There's a million new fads and diets and this and that. But I am a firm believer that there's 7 billion people in this world, and I don't think there's one modality for everything. And so I think that we're each created to have an influence somewhere. And there's people that everyone will have influence on, that in a way that that no one else will. So you have influence on another person that no one else could even tap into. And so I think there's different parts of that. And so I just want to offer it, and it can be taken if it wants. Yeah,
that's so great. Well, I always say who gives a shit, just to kind of do the shock value, but it's obvious you care and you want to be of service and you have a talent, and I think that's really great and commendable, and I love it. I love why. I asked you this earlier. Why, in particular, women? I know I focus on men, especially young men, and I think that young men, in particular, really thrive with a mentor that's not like their father or family or family member or something like that. Why, for you, are you focusing on, but not necessarily women?
As we talked about earlier, kind of the relatability aspect of it. I like to get very raw, down to the point, very detailed. I'm very open book. And sometimes I think there can be kind of just an unspoken wall between men and women just because of our differences. So I would say that is one. And I think even actually before my dad passed away, I've always been passionate about women, girls, younger girls, having a powerful relationship with their father. I think that's a really important role in life. And so I've also kind of wanted to go in that direction, just helping women, work through some struggles that they've had with their fathers or different, fears that they've have to work through, or just not feeling good enough, or whatever it is. So I feel like I can relate to women in the aspect of mother and daughter. I mean, father and daughter relationship.
And mother and daughter too.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. What would be an example of getting down and dirty and raw, and what would be an example of that? Like, what would you say or not say, or?
What would be an example? I mean, I pretty much won't not say anything. I think there's a time and a place for everything. But one of my passions is, I feel like people like to sugar, or a lot of time I should say, I've come across people who like to sugarcoat situations, and I like to just get to the bottom of it. So for example, I used to work with high school girls at church, and so I would talk a lot. Like, I did a taping for a friend that created a Bible study course, and talked a lot about like sex and the woman's body and what's happening when they're having sex with a man, and all these things. And it's some uncomfortable situations that people don't necessarily like to talk about. But it was kind of cool in those circumstances because it got to open a lot of, vulnerabilities, or where these girls were actually at and what they were actually doing, and really bringing some healing to them in those areas that are kind of like touchy and like, oh, I don't want to talk about sex, I don't want to talk about this. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Heck yeah. Yeah, that is touchy and uncomfortable. And I know when I was growing up, that was like an unspoken thing. It was pretty much, my mom was like, don't have any.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about sex, which was ridiculous because, we're all going to have it.
Yeah.
And it was on my way out the door. I remember distinctly when I was in high school, no bambinos. So, yeah, no kids. Okay, thank you, Mom. Obviously, does that mean
thanks for the advice?
Careful, or what does that mean? There was no like sex talk. My grandmother she was a nurse, and so she would bring me into her office and show me pictures of sexually transmitted disease, like herpes and crabs and stuff like that. She showed me pictures, so it was like Scared Straight. Like, if you don't use protection, this is what you're gonna get. This is what it looks like. Like, that's disgusting. He's like, yeah, here's condoms. Go use them. I already know. And your mother wanted me to have this conversation with you, kind of thing. So that's really, really great. That's I think something like a lot of parents would really appreciate, because that's not every parent wants to be open like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What about, so tell me, how does your spirituality and your faith come into what you do? How does it influence you?
So my faith is basically everything to me. It's something that's on my mind and my heart all the time. I heard once, and I love this, there's two things. There's what you believe and there's how you believe. And I believe in Jesus Christ. I'm a Christian. I'm a follower of God. And that is my foundation. But even more importantly than that is how I believe, to me. And that's the external in it. So that's how it plays out when I'm in the gym coaching someone, or whether I'm on Skype coaching someone in mindset and clarity, or I'm at the store and I'm just literally talking to the cashier. So I think my faith literally embodies everything I do. I am human, so I definitely screw up a lot and mess up. But I try to live my life as connected to God as I can be, so then I can pour into others. For example, I I was running an errand one day, and I really felt, I heard God say, but really to me it's like, just like in my mind, like it was a knowing inside me, I guess is the best way to explain it, that I was supposed to talk to this person that was sitting next to me and just let them know that God loves them and that He hears them. And so it was very hard for me because I'm like, this person's going to think I'm a whack job. And I was like, but this is not about me. And so I told that person, and he literally just started crying and was like, I'm going through a divorce and my life was really hard for me, and I asked God to give me a sign if He's still there, if there's still hope. And you just did that. And so that was through many experiences like that, but I just try and be like, okay, it's not about me. Like, I really don't care if someone thinks I'm crazy. If I can improve someone else's life, then they're not going to think I'm crazy, And maybe they will, but that's okay, because it's all worth it to me. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
That's really awesome. Yeah, and that's like what I think many people may come across is those who say they're religious, but they're only religious on Sundays, and then the rest of the week that they're not necessarily walking the walk. And then I come across a lot of people who will not say they're religious and just say they're spiritual because they don't want to be labeled or something like this. But being true and authentic like you are, and you're walking the walk. You get these. Somebody's maybe call it intuition or the voice or whatever it is, and you actually act upon that is admirable. Pretty freaking awesome. It's really great. Do you read a lot?
I do.
Yeah. What's a book that you've read within the last 5 years that has significantly impacted your life?
Probably, right now I'm reading The Big Leap by Gay Hendrickson. I believe that's his last name. And it's all about finding your zone of genius. You're familiar with that?
I've heard of it, yeah.
So that's kind of like in my world right now, that's having a big impact of just really sitting into what I've been called to. I think the very thing that I want to teach people, I think actually the very thing that all of us want to teach people is sometimes the very thing that attacks us the most. And so it's really been cool to read through that and just really start to focus in and like hone in on the detail of who I am and who I've been called to. And then I would say another one that I've really liked is The Slight Edge.
So my wife is going to listen to this. She's like, I love that. She loves that. And I listened to it a couple times. Yeah, she loves that.
Yeah, I feel like that's one that you could, that would be like a good yearly book. Or but yeah, I think that one, because I think there's a lot of practicals in it too. Even, I haven't been doing it recently, but how he talks about reading 10 pages of a book a day, and man, you can power through so many books doing that and just being consistent. So I do generally read every day, but yeah, that's a good book. I like that one.
Yeah, I got that idea from that book, and this year I instead of, because oftentimes I'll be doing work during the day or whatever, and I'll just need a break in my head, and before I would just go on like social media or something like that.
How many times do they say you're going to be direct deposited, which means you're in the employment system?
Have somebody else's conversation walking by. It's so funny. And I would just go on social media, which does nothing for me. It was actually making me more irritated when I got off of it. So I was like, well, I'm just going to start doing that, read 10 pages of a book. So I've gone through, I don't know how many books, probably 10 books this year so far. I'm reading one right now, Walden, that it's hard to get through 10 pages. Luckily, they're short, but it's so, like the English is old English, and I'm like, it just hurts my brain sometimes trying to get
Yeah.
through it. But I've been powering through books this year because of that. So.
I know, isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Do you gift books?
Sometimes, not a ton.
What do you gift? Or what would you gift if you wanted to give
I
a
have
book?
gifted Slight Edge a few times.
Yeah.
I've gifted there's like a prayer, kind of like a daily devotional prayer book that I read that I'm like The Circle Maker.
Is it leather bound? Is it leather on the outside? I've got one that's leather. But
They may be in one. But I like that one because it's like really short little nuggets that you can read every day. And I think those are the only two.
Cool. What makes you different as a coach?
Just a coach in general.
Yeah.
I would say I'm very intentional about getting to like the heart and to the relationship. I love relationship. I love sitting with someone and listening to their heart. But I also am very black and white a lot of the time. So I'm very like, I'll say it how it is, or I'll call it out. So it's actually funny, at Nakoa in the gym, people have given me the name of the Velvet Hammer. And one of my clients a long time ago gave me that name. And then actually someone at church called me that not too long ago. I was like, but I feel like that kind of embodies who I am. I'm a very kind of soft-spoken, more introvert person. I'm definitely more of a one-on-one person. I'm not your like stick me in a party and everyone like sees me. But so I guess I'm very like soft-spoken, mellow, very even-keeled, but definitely like to the point and want to get work done and want to like see change. And
Have you always been like that, or you grow up being that intentional girl that would just speak her mind?
I think I've always been like that.
Yeah. I know you have two brothers, right?
Yeah,
Are they both older?
2 older brothers. Yeah.
How have they influenced your personality? Did you have to be like, okay, this is on my mind, otherwise I'm not going to be heard, kind of thing, or?
Probably, yeah. I was their little servant. My brothers could do no wrong in my world. And so I would, growing up, I would just do anything for them. I would literally be like, you guys want lunch? I'll make you lunch. Or, you know. So, I don't know how. Probably, I had to, like, if I needed to, I was the youngest and a girl with 2 older brothers. So when I needed to get something across, it needed to be
Said. Yeah. I don't have that relationship with my sister. I find that I'm more quiet around I'm a lot more quiet around my sister. She's older, and she out-talks me a lot of times, so I will not say stuff. I will not talk because she's talking. I just listen. My dad, he's always said, you listen really well. And I was like, I can't get a freaking word in edgewise. So I listen really well. Maybe
that's why. I'm a really good listener, so maybe it comes from that.
I think the youngest rule anyway. So, so who or what has made a significant influence on your life, whether it may be a mentor or an event in your life within, let's say, the last 5 years that has it could have shifted your path a bit?
So I would say probably 2 events that really just pop up. One a little bit more than 5 years ago, but in 2009, 2010, I went on a missions trip. So I just left my job, left everything.
To Spain, right?
Well, I did do Spain on the tail end. I did a leadership school. My mentors had a leadership school there. So I did, it was called the World Race. So we went to about 17 countries in 11 months. Lived out of a backpack. And then after that, I did the leadership school. And so I would say that's completely 110% changed my life and who I am. Just gave me the space to kind of forget everything else and really figure out what my purpose was on this world, on this earth, what I really believed, challenge what I believed, and really get to the like rawness of who I am. And yeah, that was the hardest year of my life up until recently.
How did that, until then, how did that, like, what changes did you make out of that trip? Like, how did it shift you, and what kind of changes did you make?
So up until that point, I was just kind of going through life. My goals were kind of to just climb the corporate ladder, get married, have kids, just live the typical American dream. And I didn't really care much about my health then, or prior to that. Just kind of lived an average life, I would say. And then when I went on that, it gave me a chance to really just kind of sit back, dream. And so out of that, I really got to challenge to what I believed. I grew up Catholic, but about a year before that, I started going to church at a Christian church and started kind of seeking God more.
I will cut this part out.
Yeah.
You were saying? You can move out of the sun if you like, and this is
I'm like half in, half out. So yeah, I got to just challenge what I really believe, and I knew there was some truth in God, but I needed to find it myself. So it allowed that. And so when I came home, I was just, I had seen God in so many situations be real, and I just knew there was more to life. I knew that I didn't want to just sit in an office for the rest of my life. I knew that I wanted to take care of my body more. And that's actually when I started looking into personal training and getting into that world. And so, yeah, I completely, before then I was a smoker, I drank, I just partied, did whatever. And I just started to really take inventory of my life and start to care about it more, because I know if I take care of this body and me, then I can serve more people and help other people do the same.
How'd you find it? How did you find out about that? If you were out partying, drinking, and carrying on and stuff, how'd you end up going on this trip in the first place?
My brother actually went on it. Him and I both kind of lived a similar life, and he just kind of had a radical change. And then I was like, I watched him for like a year. Him and I are like best friends. So I watched him for like a year. I was like, he told me, I'm leaving. I'm selling my house, leaving my job, and going on a missions trip. I was like, what? And like literally, if I'm honest, the first thoughts in my head were like, 1, you're crazy. 2, I can't come and party with you and your friends anymore. Like, to me, that was the end of the world. And so yeah, just watched him for a while, and then I actually felt a call to go on it, but I was fighting it for about a year. I was like, no desire to live out of a backpack, 0. But just got to a point where I couldn't fight it anymore, and I was like, all right, I'm over fighting this. I'm just going to do it. God, if you're calling me, then provide the money, and everything just fell into place as soon as I said I would. So yeah. And then, through that I started, I met my mentors, I met, some friends that are just my everything, and people that really know the ins and outs of me and have been through some really hard times with me. I'd say that. And then the other moment would be that 7 months ago, my dad passed away. So that obviously has been life-changing. It was sudden, so it wasn't expected, but kind of a couple cool things, for lack of a better term, that came out of that was so 6 months prior to my dad passing away, my landlord was selling my apartment, and so I had to find a new place to live. And I was, looking for places, praying about it, and all these opportunities kept coming up, and then they kept falling through. And I really felt that God was telling me to move back home with my parents. And I was like, hell no. I'll do anything else, God, but I'm not moving back with my parents. I'm 34 years old at the time. I'm just not going to do it. And so I just fought that kind of pulling. And after talking to my mentor one day and just encouraging me just to, stop fighting, I moved back home. And then when I really sought out why I was supposed to be there, I was like, okay, well, I'm here for a purpose. I'm clearly called to be here. So why am I here? Let's get the most out of it. And I felt that I was supposed to work on my relationship with my father. And it was never a bad relationship, but it just wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be. And so I didn't obviously realize at the time, but I got 6 months of really just pressing in with my dad. And I definitely obviously wasn't finished, but I'm so thankful that I got, because had I not lived at home, I wouldn't have seen him as much, obviously, and wouldn't have had moments with him. But there's been countless moments like that, just through this whole journey. So every day is literally just changing my mindset and my outlook on life.
Yeah. Well, listening to that voice, whatever it may be, is freaking awesome, and it's obviously done some amazing, I can't imagine missing that opportunity with, your father, or just, putting myself in that situation with my father. If I would love to press in with my parents and more. I talk with them a lot, but there's been moments that I've we've gotten pressed into each other as adults. We really want them to live closer and live together. I find this society that we're in, we don't our families just split or go separate ways, and we're not as a tight community as in other cultures, of course, there's good and bad with that, living with your parents, but I think, being underneath the same roof and just really accepting what elders have to offer. Elders, obviously, being somebody older. I think it would have the society just be better as a whole. If the younger generations would just get some of what and myself included, to get what the elders, their experience, and learn from the younger generations. Because people have been listening to this, I've got something going on with millennials. I just don't understand them, and it's like the other generation. Their music sucks. It's too loud. I feel like an old man. I don't get them. Blah blah blah. It's funny. My wife is a millennial, and my friend's like, well, why don't you just interview her? Just find out. It's like living with one is like what I resist persists. So like really getting to know the other generations by being closer instead of being so spread out and divided would just definitely contribute to a society. I just think we're getting more and more divided as especially the generational gaps. What just on a totally different subject, I like this question. A gadget or purchase you've made under $100 within the last 5 years has impacted your life?
Whew. I don't know if you would call it a gadget, but I would say my journals. Yeah, I would say my journals, and because I'll write things that dreams or whatever I'm going through, or fears or this and that, and then going back and looking at them and being like, oh, I can actually like see a little bit more clearly now, and I can actually kind of glean some wisdom from that and kind of change my perspective.
What's your journaling habit? Do you do it in the morning, in the afternoon? What when do you? I
have no habit with journaling.
You just journal when it comes to you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like before bed or anything like that.
I'm a very to the point, quick. So my journals are not super long stories. Sometimes they are, but a lot of it's bullet points kind of. I dream a lot, and I think there's a lot of power. There's just a lot of learning that I do through my dreams, so I'll write down my dreams a lot. So I guess in the morning, if it's a dream that I think I need to pay attention to, I'll write that down. But yeah, no real
no structure
consistent to it. Time on that.
What kind of journals do you use? Is any certain brand that you prefer, or the moleskins or anything like that?
So I like to go to TJ Maxx in their home section. They have a ton of really cute journals, and they're $3. And so a lot of them have scriptures on them too, so I'll get those. But yeah, I have so many journals. It's crazy.
I don't typically go back and read mine. I journal every morning, but I don't go back and read it. So
that's, I think, the hardest part, and I definitely don't have it down, but I'll every so often I'll go back and read my journaling from when I was on my missions trip and be like, oh wow, I was here, or and so I actually like going back further than just a couple months or
What's a failure that you've had that sticks out in your brain that you're I definitely have learned something from this failure? I would call it your favorite failure.
My favorite failure. I would say I don't know if I would boil it down as one, but I think some relationships. I think I definitely a while back in my wild days, I definitely like to date the bad boys. So I would be seeking a lot in someone else, and seeking, I think, the attention and the kind of wild ride. And so I think I failed a lot in that realm. But looking back, and as I finally got out of that, I really got to learn a lot about myself and who I really saw myself and my true value. And I got to progress my life a lot more because of that. So I would say favorite failure, because there was so much failure in it, but I learned so much about me as a person and got to better myself as a person through that.
So finding your or looking for something in somebody else, as you look at your own self and figured out you don't need somebody else.
Yeah, I think I found a lot of my worth in who I was dating, and that later on showed me. I found a lot of my worth in my job and what I did, and how high I was in the corporate ladder, and it was always external. Instead of really finding my worth in exactly who God's created me and who God's calling me to be.
What would you tell somebody who finds themselves stuck, maybe inside of a relationship like this, who they're seeking something from the other person and they're just not being fulfilled?
I would tell them, I would definitely say it's a process. There's no one thing that's this is what you do and then you're fulfilled in you. But that's something that I get to do in my coaching, that I really get to break down, if they're in a certain situation, kind of asking them why they, are trying to be validated like that, kind of go back and see, how their relationship was with their father or with their parents, or if there was some big moment in life that caused that. I think if we just dig a little bit deeper, we can find a lot of meaning and a lot of healing. So I guess there's no one thing I would say, but I would say I'm a firm believer of always encouraging someone and always, I never want to lie to someone. I'm not the person that's oh, your shirt's super cute, just to say it. But I am a firm believer that always finding something, there's beauty in every single person. So trying to, even if it's hard, pulling that out and just encouraging them in that, instead of being oh, what you're doing is so wrong, because they hear that enough, but a lot of times I don't think we as people hear enough where we are excelling, or where we are beauty, or where our beauty is greatest.
Yeah, or even the brighter side of the situation that they're in, whether they're searching out the bad boy for something, whether there's something I can learn from this, or this relationship that's gone sideways.
Yeah.
I can,
totally.
It's gotta be, I'm here for a reason. What is the reason? If and when you ever feel or get overwhelmed inside of work or life or whatever, is there some go-to things that you do?
So I was actually just talking about this with someone yesterday. I've really learned to just kind of pull back. I think for a large part of my life, when I got overwhelmed, I would be okay, that means I have to do more. I have to, just be quicker and get things done. And I've really learned that I'm just kind of release it, kind of in my mind's eye, just be okay, my hands are released. It'll all be there, and I love to listen to music. I love to kind of just sit, listen to music, pray, seek God. I would probably say those are my number one. But most tangible, I think, would just be to literally try and release everything and be okay, it's okay. Or even if it's I'm done for the day. Like, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm not going to answer any emails. I'm at my max today. I heard someone say once, this entrepreneur that I know, she's like, I fired myself so many times. And she's like, when I get overwhelmed, and sometimes she's like, you're fired for the day, you are done. And then she's like, sometimes it took me a couple days to hire myself back, and I thought that was cool.
I love
just
that.
like, this job is done.
Speaking of music, do you have any guilty music pleasures? Like maybe something that if somebody found out you listened to, they'd be surprised or shocked at?
Probably Eminem. I love Eminem. I pretty much listen to country and Christian most of the time, but I absolutely love Eminem.
What's about Eminem? I am a big Marshall fan too. So what's about him that you like?
His depth. I think even though a lot of his music, it's not always the most uplifting. But I think when you really listen to it, there definitely are nuggets that obviously he's been through a really hellish life. And I just think, like, I always say he's one person I would love to sit down and talk to. Like, I just think there's so much depth to him.
Yeah.
And so much behind that face that he intrigues me.
Yeah.
And I think his music, again, although it's not always the most uplifting, I think there's a huge story behind it all the time.
A couple of his songs have gotten me through some tough times, like had me make the jump to another job, or just like pull myself up from the ground up, like, all right, let's do this. There's something about rap music that has me push and remember where I've come from, and just like, okay, strive for the next thing. What's the next thing? And country, it's something totally different than me. Like, it grounds me, kind of roots me. And reggae just is kind of like life to me. I love
Oh, that's
reggae.
cool. I like that.
Reggae's life. It's chill. It's love. It's spirituality. It's all that. It's really cool. Once you,
That's cool.
I've been reading about more and more reggae and Rastafarians and stuff like that. The more you know about it, the more the music actually makes sense. So that's cool. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks. What about something? If someone found out something that someone found out about you would surprise the heck out of them, and not being music. Or when people do find out about you, it surprises them.
That's a hard one. I don't feel like people get... I guess one would be people that don't know me, because the ones that know me definitely know this, but I'm not a super big animal person. Like, one of my clients and I actually had the conversation the other day. He said to me verbatim, how can you be such a compassionate and caring person, or how can you be the compassionate and caring person you are and not love animals? I was like, whoa, that's hard. Yeah, I'm just not a huge animal fan. The older I get, the more I'm learning to appreciate them, and but yeah.
Anything happen in particular when you were a kid, like get bit by a dog or anything like that? You just don't like. Really
I just don't like a mess. Like, I'm all about them, but I'm like hair, cleaning up the yard, like all of that, I could do without. So, other than that, they're great.
Thank you so much.
And other people's pets are probably better off than having your own. Like, other people's, like, enjoy the cuteness and then that's it.
Yeah, but I'm not like the girl that like sees a dog and is like, oh, like, you'll never see me like run up to a dog. If you do, it's special dog or something's wrong with me.
What would be something that if you, metaphorically, you could have a big sign in the sky or a billboard? I steal this one from Tim Ferriss. I love this question. Is like a message you can have out there that someone would see every day. What would it be?
Message. I would probably say two things pop up. I would say there's no security in what God is doing, but there's 100% security in who He is. So I've found in my life that, people can call it whatever they want, God or whatever. But I think this life, there's being connected to God. I've found that is the one true security in my life, that as human beings, we're always going to let people down, not always intentionally. But if I consistently depend on another person and make another person my life, then I'll be let down. That's not to say I'm all about relationships and pouring in and building. That would kind of be like a motto of like how I think. And then I would say just a very simple, like it's on my signature, in grace and truth. I'm very much a justice person. I definitely always it's really easy for me to see two sides of the story. And I just want it to be fair. I just want everyone to everyone to have their equal part. And so with that, just truth. I'm very much a truth person. I live by truth. I try and, everything I do, try to be in as much truth as I can. But with that, I think that grace needs to come along with it. There needs to, we're human beings. We mess up all the time. I mess up all the time. And to have grace and to have understanding behind that, I think is a really important human connection. So fighting for truth and justice, and but at the same time having some autonomy and having grace in there, and just forgiving and giving grace to others as well as ourselves is huge.
That is huge, especially to ourselves.
Yeah. That's a hard one.
I'm a big beat myself up kind of character. I think a lot of, driven and successful, I'm sure that goes on with everybody. It's just like self, harshness. Yeah.
Want to make better.
Yeah. If you could leave something with the people who are listening, what would it be? Is there anything that you would you just see that is a missing, that is in society, that you just want to leave people with?
I would say something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and just with the political climate of our country, and just obviously just horrendous things going on, and the availability of social media. So many people are bashing people, and something I've really been thinking is me as a person. I want to more, and I think if we could all just get back to our family structure, kind of what you were talking about earlier, and just connecting with our people, like our immediate family, but also like our tribe, our people, whatever you want to call it. And just serving them and loving them, and trying to be the best brother, sister, spouse, friend in our immediate circle, instead of always putting this focus externally on all these other people. I just think so much would change, and I know it's a lot easier said than done. But I would encourage people to really just look at their space and look at who they're surrounding themselves with, and just one, make sure they're pouring life into the situation they're in, supporting others and encouraging others, and also having life being poured into them. Like I'm all about loving everyone where they're at and respecting people, but I'm also not about to put myself in a situation where it's surrounded by a bunch of negativity and just death being spoken in, because I just think there's what we speak and what we think is very powerful. So yeah, just really, really diving in, I guess, to your tribe, your community, where you're at, and making significant change there, and then moving out.
Yeah, totally get that. Yeah, be a contribution to your closest, your closest circle, and then whatever happens, how that pebble radiates out. You know, I mean, if you really take care of your tribe and your family, and I mean because then they're going to take care of their circles, and I mean it's just like massive circles, and if we all did that, that would be huge.
That's, I think, the power in like mentoring and like what you're doing, and I just think it's so cool of just pouring into. Just talked to my coach last night, and she was like, we all want to like change the world. She's like, but we don't realize that when we're changing one person's life, that is changing all of their spheres. Like, we are changing the world with just one person.
Yeah. We are the pebble.
Yeah. That's good. I like that.
Pebble in the pond.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Where can people reach you? Where can you be found?
I can be found on Taryn Alisha. I have a Taryn Alisha Coaching. And then just Taryn Alisha. And then my training services can be found in Nakoa Fitness. And Instagram, Taryn Alisha on there. Pretty much Taryn Alisha anywhere.
Is that your middle name?
It is.
Oh, I like it. Cool. Cool.
Yeah, it's my prophetic way of saying I love my last name, but I will get married one day, and so if I keep it at Taryn Alisha, then I don't have to change it.
I like that. It could be a tip somebody's stealing from me right now. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Anything that can be linked, I'm going to put on here, like linked all the books and everything we talked about, anything linkable. And once again, thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I really appreciate just getting to know you more and your quirky animal stuff. I'll know to dress up as a big dog for Halloween. And just thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
This show was brought to you by TrueFit. TrueFit is my go-to suspension trainer. They are two separate handles like rings, but they're more versatile than rings, in my opinion. And you can use them like rings, or you can use them like a typical suspension trainer that's anchored in one point, but they're way more versatile. So I use them when I do kettlebells, when I'm just using body weight. You can hang barbells from them. You can do all kinds of stuff. And if you act today, if you go to http://www.staytruefit.com/kettlebellfriends.html, and that's Stay True Fit. So it's STAYTRUFIT.com. I'll put this in the show notes. If you go there today, each unit is $100, which is about 20% off. So I'd act on this. He's not going to do this for very long, and the owner is being very generous and super cool and putting this up. So anyways, go to that website, get your TrueFit, and get your suspension training on. All right, and there you have it, another wrap of the show. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and a couple things before you go. If you would like to get a very short email from me once a month, and what I put in these emails is just different things that I'm digging up or experimenting with my life, like my diet or cleanses or detox, different ways of working out, different books that I'm reading, different things that are influencing me. I put those in the email. It's very short. It's usually 2 things, and it's once a month. And if you'd like to get that, go to robertbudd.net and drop in your email, where you can put in your email where it says this is not a newsletter. Also, if you like the show or love the show, please share it. And if you could rate it and like it and all that kind of stuff, it's feedback for me to know that that you liked it or you didn't like it, and it's also keeps the show going, so more people will find it, and I'll just keep on keeping on. So with that being said, everything else can be found in the show notes at robertbudd.net/podcast. And that's it. So until next time, just let your love light shine.